Hello, bore da, prawn da, noswaith da, whenever you might be watching this video. Hello, I'm Hugh. I'm the optician at A1 Eyewear. So in this short video, we're going to be covering glaucoma and hopefully how we can avoid visual effects of glaucoma. So I should disclose that this will be a short presentation, very much layman's terms. We'll try and cover it in 10 minutes or so. Obviously, it's a complex conditions that I can't cover fully, but hopefully we'll give you some basic understanding. And then if you've got any more questions, feel free to contact me on whichever platform you're viewing this. So glaucoma, will have plenty of slides to go through, so a bit more of a visual demonstration in a minute. But just briefly, what is glaucoma? Simply, it's loss of optic nerve at the back of the eye. So light comes into the retina at the back of the eye and goes from the retina through to the brain. Glaucoma is loss of that nerve fibre that takes the information from the retina through to the brain. Often people refer, in the eye test to glaucoma as just being high eye pressure. That is true to a certain extent, but not strictly speaking. There's more to glaucoma than just high eye pressure. It's not that simple, unfortunately. But high eye pressures, which we'll cover in a second, yes, can often does cause loss of optic nerve. So they are linked. Effect on the vision is gradual loss of your peripheral vision, the outside of the vision, but will eventually, unfortunately, affect the whole of the vision if left untreated. As I've already mentioned, often, but not always, caused by high eye pressures. And in terms of the risk factors, glaucoma is often associated with family history. There's a strong familial link, but again, that's not always the case. Glaucoma can affect any of us, and from a much younger age than a lot of other common conditions like your macular degeneration and cataracts. Glaucoma, certainly from the age of fairly uncommon under 40, but certainly from 40s onwards, then it can affect any of us. So if we try and go through this presentation, this is a healthy optomap scan of a retina at the back of the eye. So those of you who come here to A1 may well have had this optomap scan done. I've had it for 4 years or so now. Certainly wouldn't be without it, but we basically see the whole of the back of the eye. With glaucoma, we are concentrating more on the optic nerve here, or the optic disc right in the center. Now the optic nerve does pan all the way over the retina, but the nerve collects here at what we refer to as the optic disc. So it's this area we're concerned about with your glaucoma assessment, really. So if we move on, if we zoom in on an optic disc, again, this is a healthy optic disc. If we see our optic disc, optic nerve, and it looks like this, then we're perfectly happy. So you'll see here a slightly pale area in the middle, which is normal, and then a healthy sort of pinkish yellow optic nerve around it. I'll tend to, again, very sort of layman's term, but refer to this as maybe a polar mint or a donut, if you like, where you've got a hole where there's no nerve in the middle, and then the healthy rim around it. Excuse me. Moving on to a slightly more suspicious image. So we've got a healthy optic disc. This optic disc would be slightly more suspicious of glaucoma. So you'll see now the pale area in the middle is taking up a much larger area of the optic disc. So the rim of the donut or the polar mint or the rim of your optic nerve, especially down at the bottom here, is now very thin, and here we would certainly be concerned about glaucoma. So how does this happen again, or taking a step back for a second? If this is a simple sort of diagram or image of the eye looking sort of cross section side on, this at the back of the eye is your retina, and then you'll see here the optic disc or the optic nerve, where the information from the retina goes through to your brain. At the front of the eye here, this is where the fluid pressure comes from, so what we call the aqueous humour. So we measure your eye pressures when you come for an eye test, and the classic normal readings would be somewhere in the region of, say, 10 to 20. So this is fluid and this is millimeters of mercury, for those of you who want to know the units. But between 10 and 20 would be normal fluid pressure in this area, where the risk of glaucoma would be considered minimal. If we measure your eye pressure and the pressures are up in, say, the mid-20s or certainly the high 20s, then you could think of this, again, an analogy, but a football with too much air being pumped into it. That pressure from the front of the eye pressing out causes damage then to the optic nerve, which causes the optic nerve to go from a healthy nerve to a thin optic nerve. So yeah, the fluid pressure from within the front pressing on the nerve at the back of the eye. So again, a few more sort of side-to-side representations of how we might see the difference between a healthy nerve and a glaucomatous optic nerve. So on the left-hand side here, you see a nice healthy optic nerve, pale area in the centre, but plenty of healthy sort of pinkish nerve around it. Moving over to the right, you'll see a very pale, bright central area taking up again a large proportion of the optic nerve, leaving only a very thin optic nerve. Certainly a glaucomatous change going on here, and again quite a dramatic example here, but again a fairly healthy looking optic nerve on the left hand side. There's plenty of healthy nerve here, but over to the right again you'll see a large pale area and a thin area, so again glaucomatous damage going on, unfortunately. The effect that this would have on the vision, to skip one slide, in simple terms we refer to this affecting your peripheral vision. So on the left hand side we've got a full field of vision. You'll see early glaucoma where you'll see the outside of the vision has started to be affected, and then later stage glaucoma on the right hand side where in effect you've only got the sort of tunnel vision effect. In reality though, I think it's not as simple as this sort of diagram or representation. So even though it's a little more complex and a little bit busy, I think this diagram does in a way represent things a bit better. So starting down at the bottom, image F would be normal, and then moving up to A at the top left hand side would be your full glaucoma effect. We've got the tunnel vision. You could argue, moving from F to E up to D, that there are only sort of slight changes, and I wanted to show you this in that from your perspective as a patient, in the early stages of glaucoma you probably wouldn't notice any effect to your vision day to day, and that's why unfortunately there are lots of patients walking around, especially those who maybe haven't had an eye test for quite a while, with early stages of glaucoma, potentially E and D here, and are unaware of it. And by the time, unfortunately, people present to us with glaucoma symptoms, say C here, where you're noticing missing patches in your vision, or you've started bumping into things. Unfortunately, by that stage, it is too late. We don't get the optic nerve back, unfortunately. So if you are unfortunate enough to develop glaucoma, then ideally we want to be detecting it at the earlier stages before you're even aware of any symptoms at all. So to finish off this brief and concise presentation, how to avoid glaucoma, quite simply, it's have a regular eye test. If it's with ourselves, fantastic. If you've got a regular optician you already go to, that's great. To keep up with your annual, or at the very least 2-year sight test, wherever your optician recommends. If there's family history of glaucoma, or close family history, then certainly every year is advisable. If all the checks, images, field tests and pressures are normal, then every 2 years might well be okay. There's healthy living, healthy lifestyle choices, of course, is advisable, but there's nothing really you can do to avoid glaucoma. If you do have genetic susceptibility to it, then regardless of your lifestyle choices, it is something that can creep up on us, and only an eye test would be able to detect that at the earliest stage. So I think that's it, really. Like I said at the beginning, there will be lots of unanswered areas or questions with glaucoma here. So if you've got any questions, please reply to the thread or the post or on email, wherever you might be watching this. I'd be more than happy to help in any way possible. Okay, thank you very much. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi. Hwyl am y tro. Bye now.